unfolding, I would say, this incredible long durational performance you will be able to see in the chapel downstairs, where every day for many hours she builds a structure, and she does so blindfolded. And I think it's interesting you also brought
my blindfold.
Your blindfold. Sorry, I think we're all a bit overwhelmed by the space. It's pretty incredible. I think when we first spoke, when we spoke just a few days ago, trying to put together ideas for this, I think we realized we both we were both reading Foucault and Madness in our younger age, and why bringing this back in this space would bring up also so many memories and ideas and also concerns about how charged the space is. And of course, I would start with a very, very obvious question, which is the title of your piece, because it's not only a piece you've been doing for this occasion, it's been developed over time, but it's, this mortal building.
Yes.
House. Because also the space has been very heavily informed by history of also mortality and attempts to cure, but also to encapsulate the body and so forth. So maybe.
There's a request that you use the microphone.
On
the back.
Okay.
Okay. We're in the speaker.
Can I need to stay very away from each other? I think it's gonna pick up.
No, I think it's me.
Okay, hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
I think we need to turn the speaker a little bit away from the microphones. That was me. So, usually,
I think the Larsen is
away from the microphone.
happening, but
Because it picks up. Sorry. That's one speaker we have? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. I think we're doing that. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah?
Hello.
It's me. I'm too close. Okay. It's not working this one.
we wanted to be very close to each other.
It's okay. Let's go.
So we will do it without.
Yeah, but it's not working without.
Back to you.
Our technical guy left.
I'm going to speak up.
Yeah.
Yes, and we will try and project.
Yes. So where does the title come from? The title actually comes from a monologue from Cleopatra. When she was taken in Rome, she tried to, before killing herself, one of the guards prevents her from taking her own life and takes the dagger. And then she gives a monologue that basically tells that she will not eat, she will not sleep, and if a lot of talk is necessary, she will do anything she can to not give in to being held captive. And then she says, "This mortal house I'll burn, do Caesar what he can." And
In which author?
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare.
Yeah, in Shakespeare, yes. And it's one of these monologues that I sort of learned, and I know it by heart, and I never forget it for some reason, because it's so super strong, because Shakespeare wrote in iambic pentameter, which is a rhythmical, it's one of my favorite rhythmical ways of reading text. It's like the heartbeat. So it's like to be or not to be, that is the question. So when he breaks the heartbeat, there is a reason for it. And so she starts with "Sir." And so it's a way that she gains, through that monologue, she gains dignity, and she says there's nobody that is allowed to, beforehand she even mentions, even a dog can take own life. Therefore, I am the one that is in charge of my own life, no one else is. So she gives that monologue, and in the end, she gets the snakes, and she does the suicides of herself and the maidens. So for me, it was a very strong sentence to use, sort of a couple of words that it said, this mortal house, and I felt it vibrating very strongly in me, and that's how I used it as my title. And I keep using it for the works with bricks, because when I work with bricks as in constructing, the physicality is so much involved that I feel the mortality constantly, a lot more palpitating actually.
Sorry, I'm looking at a note I took from something you were trying to somehow articulate about the experience of being in a performance and doing that stage. And I think you really use words which are completely connected, because he says that being present creates vibration, that vibration generates an echo, and that echo then leaves behind traces of energy. So I'd be very curious to learn. Of course, I mean, you perform in a deeply immersive acoustic dimension, because you are, I mean, maybe you should also describe briefly the process of how you perform, but basically you cannot see what you're doing. So you're using other senses and a perception of the space around you, or the impact of the space around you is based on other way of articulating the presence of your body in space. So maybe starting from there.
When I created the first piece of this mortal house, Building 1, which was in Istanbul 5 years ago, it was the first time that I was fully blindfolded for 4 weeks. And I was never able to sleep in complete darkness. And now I can, after this piece. In fact, I was quite afraid to sleep without light beforehand. It's one of the reasons why I said one of the main protocols is going to be to take off my sight. And to...
being blindfolded means no light at all?
Well, it's
or there
interesting.
is some light filtering, because of course it's two very different conditions.
Yes, it's very different. It's interesting. I see, when I put the blindfold on, I see nothing, basically, because my eyelids are closed, so I see nothing. But funny enough, with the time passing, it's as if the eyelid itself, it's almost like a curtain. So, you know, when you close completely the curtain, it's dark, but you can still sense there's some light out there. That's how it feels. And I don't see any, I don't see what's out there. I cannot see shapes. I cannot see forms of what reality is, but I start seeing other shapes and other forms that are within my brain that starts forming. And those start becoming more like static energy. It's like sort of like you know the TV when it's off and it's like grayish. Zzz. So I start seeing more vibrations and energy, and not even shadows. It's something very strange. I can't even define it yet, because once I met someone who was actually blind and was telling me that it's actually our brain that is activating the imagination. And so it's, I think, my brain that is making some sort of shapes and things. And yesterday I saw some kind of a mouth that was opening and closing. So it's like portals. I would say some sort of portals are opening up. And I find that very interesting. And in fact, in Istanbul, I was blindfolded for 4 weeks, which was a really long time. And on my 21st day, so it was 24 days of creating the labyrinth, on the 21st day,
Built in the shape of a labyrinth.
That's right.
A set of bricks.
That's right, yeah. I literally moved my hand for some reason in front of me, and I didn't see the hand, but I saw the energy of my hand. And this was something way out of any expectation. And I was so sort of I was like, oh, come on, no way. And so I started moving around the labyrinth, and I started literally trying to, put my hands and my arms around and make sure, oh, here's the wall. So I was touching it. So so I could really sense light in some sort of a way. And I was a really long time trying to do it, to figure it out. And I felt like there was a possibility of sensing the space differently with light.
It's very weird, but it's not that I had planned this, but while we were speaking, kind of unlocked a very, very old memory of mine as a child. I think I was trying to overcome a set of fears, and this is often the case. For instance, I decided I would start learning writing with another hand in case I broke one arm. But also, I was practicing moving around my room with the lights off and my ears closed, because I thought maybe one day I would need to do that, or maybe one day I will stop seeing. And I hadn't thought about that for such a long time, but literally I would wait to, good night, let's off to bed, and then I'd sneak out of the bed and just sort of finding that space in a completely different way, which was the most familiar, supposedly safe space. I can imagine that it felt completely different.
Yes, it does feel very different. I think we, as talking about senses, because you brought it up, I think physically in society we depend so much on our eyes, and we use our eyes the most, I feel, in terms of senses. But it was really interesting once you take off the sight, the other senses start not developing, but they start to enhance a lot more differently in the space, and your physicality changes completely. But it takes quite some time to adjust, to trust that the sense of hearing or the sense of smelling, because the sense of smelling here in Paris is absolutely insane. Like, I've never smelled better perfumes in my life. Like, every time, because while I'm working, it's hard on my body, but every time somebody passes, I smell so many perfumes that it's absolutely a joy. And it brings me so much beauty and joy of relief. It's really incredible. And I just realized, like, how much do we walk, like, in life, and we smell things, but we see first and react to it. But sometimes, if we close our eyes, you can really smell the person. You see the person differently, actually.
And also we're very close to Jardin des Plantes.
That's right.
So I imagine, also those presences find their way.
It's possible.
The wind gusts.
Yes. Yes. But it's lovely to be in Paris and have all the perfumes. It's really nice. I really love it. Yes.
I was thinking, maybe it's also free associations, because of course, it's not that you provide any direction for people seeing the performance. You walk into that space and you more or less stumble into it.
Yes.
And yesterday I was there for a while, watching you. But I thought it was also interesting that quite a few people were really seated there for a long time.
On the floor?
No,
Just on the sides.
Side chairs. That it's a bit like theatre chairs, I think. Very peacefully watching you repeat that action over and over again. So on one side, of course, you're not aware of the public, but you're aware of the public. It's always, that creation of a space that each and every single performance piece does. How do you feel that space with your audience? But at the same time, you remove one element which is really central, which is the gaze. It's, of course, you looked at, but you don't have any chance of locking that relation differently. But also, it's my Foucauldian hitting in. It's really, you are constantly being watched. It's also an act of surveillance.
Yes, it is.
You position
I was not in the center, and people were not circling me. So it was a very different approach, and they could pass like this way, but not all the way behind me. While here, acoustically, is incredible. Like, it's just, I'm actually more lost here than I was in the labyrinth because of the acoustics, because they travel all the time. I can never grasp where I am. And when we started with Aline to think about this project, to do it here in this particular space, and the use of camera work also, because I'm working with a filmmaker who's shooting the whole performance using iPhones. One of the reasons why we wanted also to use iPhones is because they're very easy to be put inside of the space in certain places where you would not be able to put the camera. For example, yesterday we put some of the cameras. I mean, I felt it all of a sudden. I was moving, looking for the bricks, and I was like, oh, that's an iPhone there. So he's using the iPhone to shoot from down to up. So what we're getting the dome, we're getting the architecture of the space as well. And the idea of surveillance, I feel, is very present within the history of the space itself, of the body, in fact, of the behavior of the body. Because we're talking about neurosis, but we're talking about how the neurosis is activating the body differently also. And I wanted to capture the use of that space and the performance through the use of the iPhones and the image work, actually. So the work that we're trying to do with the video is very intimate, in fact. We are filming more very close-ups that usually the visitors don't get to see me because they see it from a distance, they see the whole construction, but they don't hear when I exhale, when I'm getting really tired, or maybe when I'm crying. They don't see me crying, but sometimes this gets wet, my blindfold gets wet. Sometimes I need to massage, because the more the wall is growing, the more I'm disappearing, which is another part that I'm interested in this work, actually, because the mortal house becomes the building itself. So all of a sudden, I'm sort of almost incarcerating myself. Coming back to the monologue of Cleopatra, you know, I'm deciding to do it. So yeah, that was the idea, is to use that within the space. So the space is very important, actually, to me. With each work that I do in this mortal house, I always take the space as a main.
So this is the second.
This is the third.
This is the third.
Yeah. The second was in Amsterdam, and it was inside of the theater, but I was not blindfolded because I had 30,000 bricks. That was a lot, and it was completely different.
And you were building on the stage?
I was building a pavement, actually, from the streets, and I just decided to paint the pavement. It was a red carpet, it's around the theater, in fact, and it was 2022. The theater was very expensive, so I started to really like bring in the streets, and I built the whole floor out of bricks. So when they entered, they were walking on bricks. Yeah, but they had to help me, but I didn't give them any direction as well. I'm very interested to see what the visitor does by itself. I think it's a choice that the visitor should do. I don't like indicating too much as an artist what the visitor should do. I really love when the visitor has the liberty, especially with long duration, because long duration is such a long time, and you know, as a visitor, you know the time that I'm going to be there. And so if you know that the performer is going to be there, you know that if you go for a coffee, you know I'm still going to be there. So, you know, some people actually come back. And what was really an amazing story I have from Istanbul was that one day I got a message from a mother, and she told me that her child, who was at the time 6 years old, had severe HIV, and he remained for 3 hours watching me. He couldn't leave. And she said she never knew that he was capable to be just still for such a long time. So I think that long duration works really work with time very differently, and it does something. It's very contemplating, actually, very meditative for a visitor, I feel. And there is a lot of people, like the one in Amsterdam, who was interactive. So all of a sudden I had philosophers, lawyers, like people that work intellectually and sit in, yeah, exactly like this, you know. They were really helping me with the bricks for like hours. And they said, like, Italian philosopher came, she was helping me in the end. I asked her, what do you do? She's like, I'm a philosopher. She's like, oh, interesting. So what do you think? And she's like, it's incredible. It made me really rethink things very differently because of the physicality. Because when you are active physically, working physically, the whole body physically active, your brain starts functioning differently. Your associations start working differently also.
We were discussing also another piece you did this year.
Yes.
That was also long durational.
Yes.
From July to August.
Yes.
A few weeks in
Yes.
between July and August, where you are traveling. I think it's called Painted Heron.
Yes.
And you were carrying on your back a basket,
Yes.
I would say, with a live plant, and specifically a sunflower, from one place in Serbia to
Germany.
all the way castle.
To a castle, the foundation of Joseph Boris. Yeah.
So that's also a long durational piece, but it's very intimate. It's I also imagine a conversation between you and that sunflower.
Yes.
That was a live potted plant.
Yes.
You would carry around with you.
Yes, all
Either
the time.
walking or catching a train or
Buses, trams, everything I could get, yeah. Everything, all the transportations.
So I imagine on that side, but maybe it's just me playing around again with free association, that I mean, you were the spectator also
Yes.
of the performance or I mean, the daily life
Yes.
or the repeated actions
Yes.
of that other living being
Yes.
that you were carrying around with you, but you were, I imagine, also paying a lot of attention to how the movement was articulated
Yes. It changed
by
completely.
a plant that also it has it in itself to be very visibly moving and revolving,
Yes.
but we often associate that with being static within one position, and then we're changing that. So also, how was that relationship in that case?
Well, the thing is that I think that each project that I do, there is always an element of not knowing how it's going to turn out. So for example, with the bricks, I never built a house before. So when I started to build the bricks, it was the first day, and I figured out...
Because you physically prepare all the bricks, or...
I don't know. In performance art, I don't try. It's not like in theater where I try things out. I come with protocols, and the first day when I do it, it's when I discover what I'm doing with what I decided to do. And so with the element of the sunflower, I got the seed from an institute in Novi Sad, which is the northern part of Serbia. And it's one of the only institutes that has the seeds, because the seeds of sunflowers usually come from northern, southern America, or either from Ukraine or Russia. We don't actually have them in Europe. They're not grown here, but we do have them there because where I come from, it's full of sunflowers. We're very known for sunflowers. And so even the people, the doctors from sunflowers, were telling me that they don't know if this is going to survive the plant. So we didn't know the plant was going to survive. And so I did everything I could to make sure that the plant survived all the way to Germany, going through different sort of like meteorological moments, like when we came to Germany, it was raining, it was grey, and so forth. So I was very afraid for the plant.
But you're also going through many different borders.
Very much so.
And I would expect also odd conversations at the borders.
Yes.
In terms of what are you transporting, what are you doing, are you allowed to move this from one place to another, or can this cross the border?
No, it was crazy. I had to get a passport for the sunflower. It was incredible. I had to get an inspector to look at the sunflower. And then 10 days before, because Serbia is not in the European Union, so I had to get the passport. Because once you get into Croatian, then it's fine. And 10 days before I had to travel, they tell me, you can go with the sunflower, but you can't go with the soil.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'll have to do some
Repotting.
I did all kinds of things. I started moving a lot of people around me, and so some people brought from Serbia in their dresses, women inside the sunflowers. They brought it over, so I have the sunflower waiting for me on the other side. Yeah. We did all kinds of things to be able to cross this border. I had the passport. It was correct and good. And then I put it also in Croatia and the next in the borders because we have some friends over, so I gave the seed and we put it over there. So we did all kinds of different possibilities, but all this was filmed. So I had someone who was filming the whole process, and the performance was a filmed process performance. And the first day I started in nature for like 13 hours in nature. We walked for 13 hours. And this was the most difficult day because we were going through the trees. I had to bend all the time. And it became like, when you start driving a car and they all say you have a Jeep and you don't know how to drive a Jeep. All of a sudden, this became like, I became like 2 meters high because it was above my head, the sunflower. And it was looking to the past as I was walking in the present and I was walking to the future.
The angel of history.
Yeah.
But was there also some specific reason for wanting to start from there specifically?
Yes. I wanted to start from. Joseph Beuys came to visit at the time in Yugoslavia in 1974 when he was working on social sculpture. And that's where he met Marina, and he went to the Student Cultural Center, which was a hub at the time where Marina and the Marina Abramović and the 6 performers that were present at the time, with Desanka Blažević, who was one of the main curators at the time. And last year in Serbia, there was a big revolt, the student movement, given one of the tragedies that happened in my town. And the students have been fighting since then. And the Student Cultural Center was actually the whole, everything stopped. All the universities stopped for more than 1 year, basically. And so therefore I wanted to reverse, because Joseph Beuys was always talking about Eurasia. Some certain pieces that he made that had to do with the reconciliation between the East and the West. And since I come from East and the West, I thought it was a perfect moment for me to come from the East and go to the West with the story I bring from the East to the West, my own narrative into the West. And also we have some certain problems with Rio Tinto. They want the lithium in Serbia. It's a European community deal that's been signed already, and the people in Serbia are very against it. And
also I think Kosovo,
exactly.
It is very extractive for
Very, very extractive. They're extracting a lot of, there is a whole war going on with natural resources politically. And so for me to bring, and Germany is one of the main countries that are pushing to get the lithium from Serbia because they want to stop using it from China. And therefore I wanted to bring the soil all the way from Serbia and plant it from Germany.
And also, as we were
The healthy soil.
as we were saying, also sunflowers are plants who have the capacity
Yes.
of somehow healing the soil.
And the war-torn countries, and they are really powerful. For example, after Chernobyl, they were planted full, in Hiroshima also, full of sunflowers because they extract uranium and extract all the.
They extract
toxic.
many minerals from the ground.
And they regenerate the earth actually. So coming from having this relationship between Germany and boys and speaking pictures to the dead hairs and Eurasia, so I thought that this was a good moment to cross all these borders. So I visited every stop I made, I visited certain places like Vukovar. I went to Nuremberg. I went to the trial room, the Sunflower. I went to all of the Second World War monuments of liberation, also with the Sunflower, and investigating Joseph Beuys for like a whole month of his collection. I found a lot of information on letters and pieces that talk a lot about his trauma of the Second World War. And my father is an orphan because of the Second World War, so it was impossible for me not to start from Serbia.
I think about 10 years ago you also worked on other Mayan-related project
Yeah,
in Germany.
that's right, yeah.
So can you maybe speak a little about that too?
So this was year 2001. I met a lot when I met sort of like scientists and artists that were working with media and technology at that time when it started actually, before it became more mainstream. So I got the first BlackBerry before it came into the market. It was really amazing, and I was very interested to work with the webcam. I don't know if you remember, we used to have the webcam with the eye, long time ago. 20 years ago, we used to have a little eye webcam that was put USB into the computer, and that's how we were speaking to the other.
Which was also funny because it would round up.
Yes, it's like a
fish eye.
It's like a fish eye.
Yeah.
And I was very fascinated with the pixelage of the media at the time, because it was almost like a canvas. At the same time, it was full of errors. Therefore, the body, when it was moving in front of the camera, it would create this very weird choreographic movement of reality, in fact, and always with a delay. And so I was invited in an old coal mine that they closed off after 120 years, because obviously, given the rise of technology, and there were 6,000 men that were working there for years, more than 100 years. And we had to, as artists, performing artists and media artists, come up with new projects in the space. And so I was there for about 2 weeks, and I was walking around. I made like my laptop, I made like a rucksack with my laptop, and I was walking around with the camera in these spaces that, as a woman, it's very male habited spaces, and it looked like completely abandoned because there were still some trousers, some posters, some toothbrushes. It was like as if one day they just was said, that's it, it's done, you have to leave, no more work here, no more mining here, it's finished. So it was very abandoned, so the energy was very, very deep and very heavy. At the same time, entering as a woman into these spaces meant something very powerful to me. And I realized that there are actually a lot of spaces that are man-made also, that there is no women that are working there, basically. And so I found in the middle of this huge, what's it called, like, what do you call it, compartment? Like coal mine? Yeah, compound, that was the compound. A building that was round, and where it's like, I climbed up and I saw that the roof was moving that way, and there was a hole in the middle, which is the drainage of the rainwater that they were using. And to me, it looked like an umbilical cord. And so I went in there and I filmed a video with my webcam.
This also, first we're at OFFSCREEN.
Yes.
So I think also what you were telling before about being in the process of filming while performing, so you're also very obviously performing for the camera.
Yes.
Already with the idea in mind that you will be, I don't know if documenting is the right verb, because then things change.
Yeah.
Also in terms of how you then share them or compress them or edit them and so forth. But these two elements, of being being rooted in time-based media, seems to be very crucial
Yes.
So maybe I'd be, not maybe, I would be interested in learning how you decided to walk along these two paths.
When I was a child, I was writing a lot of letters at that time period when we didn't have emails. My first email was when I was 19 years old. And I always found it very fascinating that I can go, I think we have that in common. I found it very fascinating that I have this documentation. In fact, it is a documentation that is physical. It's a way to go back to, it's a way to feel, and it's also a way to sense the person through writing of what that person might be and think and so on.
It's a good time to
It's a good time.
circulate your
That's the book that I made from the library.
you can also physically pick it up and open it and have a look.
When the Balkan Wars started, I was a child, I was 13 years old, and I was living there. And I was living there, but I was also commuting to the west and to the east at the same time. And I was living in a internat, how do you say that? In a boarding school with 200 girls that became most refugees. And so I would hear the stories of what happened the day before, because they were escaping, and then I would go to the west and I would hear it differently. Or not hear it. And this made a huge impact. In fact, I always say that this is when I think I became a contemporary artist. Because I was dancing ballet at the time. And to me, that's when I understood that the narration, I have to be in charge of the narration. I have to be the one that at least has the choice to narrate it through my voice. I'm not saying it's the total truth, but it is at least the one that I can witness, I can say so. So my father was always using photography at home and always doing 8mm and doing montage. We were watching movies, we were watching him doing montage and showing the videos that he would make. And it started to make me think, because I was so much of a performing artist, meaning by it's all ephemeral, it's all in the moment, but what happens afterwards? What remains of it? And we work so much with materials, we work so much with objects also, we work so much with space in architecture that it's a shame that what remains after this ephemeral work, this is not alive after. It's one of the reasons why I did the book after this experience. So
The book, just to add a small, it comes, with different ways of reading.
yes, it's different ways of reading. So
Different page numbers, you can choose one direction or the other, and then you can recompose it in different ways. So
and you turn it, and
So you can
it's a
happily
little bit
play
like a
around
labyrinth.
with it.
in itself, yeah. You have to play with it and you have to find your own way into it, and this is what I wanted to do with the book. The closest thing to performance art, I would say, is that as a visitor. And so I wanted to transpose that also into the book so that the reader is active instead of just turning the pages and looking, which is amazing, beautiful books, But in terms of my performance, I wanted the reader to have a closer approach to.
I think I interrupted you
No,
sentence, and you were telling more about
Why
I'm
I'm
also using the camera for the recording
Yes.
in a given way.
Yes.
And then we came to the book, and because it's running around, I think it's also nice to have the possibility of touching, seeing.
The physicality of it. Yeah, but for me, it's also how do you narrate something live, something that you experience. Like if you go to a concert, without cameras. What if you go to the concert without a camera, you're not filming what you're watching in the concert? It's a whole lot of experience. But how do you place that into narration afterwards? How do you portray it? How do you tell the story afterwards? It's a whole new way of entering, actually, even with the piece. And so for me, making the book was exactly that. How can I tell what actually happened?
This is also, I work in a magazine, I've been writing many years, it's also that element of being in conversation with,
Yes.
but also appropriating
Yes.
one moment and trying to find ways of storytelling around
Yes.
it, which
Yes.
is, no, I don't want to show the original video, I want to write about what I saw
Yes.
in that piece.
Mhm.
And I think that, of course, I mean, live arts, as they are called, at sort of broader scale, really bring with it an element of narration, which is also maybe in my experience, because I mean, now recording is such constant exercise.
Yeah.
As we know, I mean, we all carry around massive archives. It's just
It's-
instead
yeah.
of taking notes,
Yeah.
snap pictures all the time, but also how to reveal the space or keep open a space for narration is, I think, a constant exercise if you are within that field. I mean, how do you tell
The story.
the story?
Yes.
How do you open up? I mean, possibly
Mhm.
besides the description of something, a space of interpretation, which is, of course, I mean, a moment of dialogue.
Yes.
Piece.
Yes. Yes.
And also because everything, I mean, for instance, in case of a piece you're performing downstairs, and soon you'll have to go because
I have to
otherwise
build,
you
yeah.
don't perform. But it's also silence, I think. It's a space which invites for that moment of not only using images.
Yes. Well, it's really interesting because when I'm in the middle there and I don't see, it's sometimes I'm like, this is incredible. I'm in an incredible event where it's image-based event, which obviously you need to use your eyes to see it, yet I'm the one that doesn't see the whole event in a way. And it creates such a contemplative dialogue for me to think about what is it that we actually see when we sleep, and what is it that we see when we don't sleep. I think there is something about that. And I think using the cameras, for example, when I did the Painted Hero, it was really incredible. We were using iPhones because going around with cameras we would need to ask for all the permissions and stuff like that. But because we used iPhones, nobody asked us any permission at all. This is how I entered the trial room of Nuremberg. No problem. And I was walking with the sunflower, and nobody ever asked me, what are you doing with the sunflower? Everybody thought it was quite normal. Yeah, I had a lot of men that approached me. I never had so many men approach me. It was mostly men approaching me because of the sunflower. It was very interesting. They all were so touched and so vulnerable in front of a plant. Yes, it was very... Yeah, I carried it, but it was very fascinating. So what I think about performance art is that somehow the spectator becomes I'm watching that as well. And it's an interaction. Here I'm not watching them, but I can sense it. The day that I stood up and I walked, I could sense everyone was quiet. All of a sudden, nobody was talking. The energy was just very concentrated and quiet. So I can really sense, and it's this energy that comes and goes. I'm not just performing for you, but we are together in it, in fact.
Last question. And first, you spend a lot of time building up something. And I think the most obvious analogy to me would be mandalas.
Yes.
That, of course, you carefully, lovingly, super attentively spend entire months sometimes, or years making, and then when they're done,
Yes.
there would be the result. And this is something you do at the end of each moment of building that mortal house. So when will it happen at this round? Will it be on Saturday?
On Sunday.
On
On Sunday I'm going to destroy it.
You there?
Yes.
But we'll need to see that.
Yes, we'll see. I mean, I've never built a Fibonacci, so we will see how I'm going
because
to
this we
destroy it.
forgot to mention.
That it's a Fibonacci.
It's a Fibonacci sequence. sequence that nature
Yes.
adopts to.
It's a pattern, yeah, in nature actually. It's actually a pattern that is inside of the sunflower seeds, so that they can grow without folding on each other. They can just have their own space while they're growing, which I think is so beautiful that nature actually gives us this, that it can exist, but it doesn't fall into each other. They all grow in sequence. That's just brilliant. And the shell also. Because when I was doing the labyrinth, I always felt like a escargot, like a snail coming out of the labyrinth. I was thinking with Jan one day, I was talking, maybe I should make a children's book actually, because I feel like a snail, you know? And then that's when I started to see the sunflower, and I thought of that, and I was like, oh, Fibonacci, which is like the perfect harmonious way in space to bring harmony back into space where we were incarcerated. So I was like, I'm going to do the Fibonacci in here. So that's how it came about.
I think we can stop here, mostly out of time concerns, because
Yes, it's nine.
we have to run announcements. Of course, if there's any question,
Yeah.
I think that there will be time for that. I also know that that's the most uncomfortable
Yeah.
questions to ask.
If you come back on Sunday, we can talk on Sunday afterwards when I'm seeing